having lived with this watch now for 8 months, it's gone very quick, I can't quite believe it, but I do feel I'm in a position now to share my experience of this watch with you, the good, the bad, and possibly what I would change if I could. I would say, as things stand, this could possibly be my favourite watch at the present time in my collection. I wear it a lot. It does have great wrist presence. It's not perfect, and I'm going to outline a few issues in this video. Hello, welcome to The Perfect Wrist. My name is Paul if you haven't been here before, and this channel is all about my own personal unique watch collecting journey in the quest to find that watch that fits just perfect on the wrist. This watch in today's video comes very, very close, but it's not perfect. There's a few things I would change if I could, so I'm going to separate this video into 3 sections: the good, the bad, and what I would change. So the good. Well, the good definitely outweighs the bad. We've got a 37mm case, perfect proportions, a sapphire box domed crystal, just under 12mm thick, with turned down lugs that just hug the wrist. That's really what makes this watch so wearable. The finish is excellent, can't fault it, very fine brushing to the case, Zaratsu polishing on the beveled edges there, background to brushing which integrates perfectly with the bracelet. Speaking of which, the bracelet is excellent. You can also get this bracelet on a couple of other Seiko models. The GMT Navit timer that they brought out last year for a similar price to this has the same bracelet, and it's a great bracelet. Just pin and collar, not screw down. The logo on the back of the case is fine, the King Seiko logo. Screw case back. It would have been nice if they could have put the gold medallion in there or something similar from the original King Seikos in the 60s. And what really sets this watch off is the dial and handset. The brushed and polished finishing to the hands, the indices. That 12 o'clock indice is just something else to behold, really. So design-wise, you really can't fault the new King Seikos. Seiko have really gone to town and been very creative with these. What I particularly like is the way that the light plays with the hands. I never get tired of looking at that. So there, you can see the brushed elements and the polished elements basically disappear, and they just come into view as you move the watch a bit. That's exceptionally well done. This is also possibly the most wearable of all my watches. It hugs the wrist beautifully. Oh, by the way, if you like these videos, do hit the little thumbs up. It does help. And also the bell, the notification bell, because then you'll be kept up to date for future videos. Thanks. So, the not so good. Not necessarily bad, just not so good. Well, for me, it has proved to be the movement. I'm sure it's very rugged, very long lasting, and as well made as other Seiko movements, but these 6R movements, I've heard different tales about them over the years. This is the 6R31, which is related to the 6R35, which is itself an update of the 6R15 movement that came along a few years ago. These movements have a slightly longer power reserve than the old 4R movements, but I find that the accuracy can be all over the place. When I first got this watch, it was running at plus 9 seconds a day, which is okay. I picked it up one day when I'd left it for a couple of days. It's supposed to have a 70-hour power reserve, which I'm sure it does. But I wonder if as that reserve starts to wear out a bit, things just go a little bit haywire. Let me know in the comments if you've experienced this. It's fascinating. I need to know. After a couple of days, I picked this up and it was running at 25 seconds a day fast. So I've tried to regulate it a little bit myself. And I've either gone too slow or too fast. It's very hard to get just right. I haven't had this problem with the 4R36 movements. I've regulated a few of those and I've managed to get those down from, say, plus 15 seconds a day to maybe plus 4 or 5 seconds a day. Also, my experience with the NH35, which is basically the 4R30 movements, that is in use in the AliExpress watches. I know they are very well regulated by the factories over in China, and they can perform at minus or plus 1 or 2 seconds a day, if that. So what I've found is that the 4R movements are rugged. They might only have a 40-hour power reserve, but they last. They're easy to regulate and they're fairly consistent. I haven't found that with this 6R movement, even though it's got a 70-hour power reserve. And I've heard that others have found the same. So it's such a shame. If Seiko, these watches are over £1,500, you can possibly get them a little bit less in the odd sale here and there. If I was going to buy one again, I would probably buy used, although there's not many available. They are popular, they do get snapped up. But if Seiko had launched this at, say, 975 instead of 1,500 with a 4R movement, I would have been happy with that. I don't need an upgraded movement. What I want is accuracy. And I don't mind a 40-hour power reserve as opposed to a 70-hour power reserve. The sheer quality of every other aspect of this watch, the case finish, the brushing, the bezel, the handset, the dial, the indices, the bracelet with its lovely deployant clasp there, all of that on its own would have justified a higher price point. If they'd launched this at 2/3 of the price with a 4R movement, a reliable 4R movement, I think people would still have gone for it because of everything else that's on offer. The movement hasn't made this watch. So what would I change? Knowing what I know now and having lived with this watch for 8 months, well, I would change the movement. I would put a 4R movement in there. People will possibly not agree with this, and I might get some backlash in the comments, but that's what I would do. I would lower the price to around £1,000 instead of 1,560. I would keep almost everything else the same. It would have been nice to see a screw down crown instead of a push pull crown. If AliExpress can do that on their watches, on their Pagani design watches, for £60, £70, I'm sure King Seiko could have done that. A nice screw down crown. The holy grail would have been this watch with a little bit of lume, which would probably very well have spoilt the overall appearance. The Spb283 managed to do it, but I think this has a look way ahead of that, to be honest. So lume would have been the icing on the cake, but I imagine it would have been very hard to incorporate. Thanks very much for staying to the end, if you did. I do have a few playlists now on my channel. If you want to have a look there, there's a Seiko binge list. There's a playlist all about watch collecting, and another one about the watch market, my experience, my thoughts. So have a look. Do consider subscribing if you haven't already. It's nice to have you along for the journey, and I'll see you in the next one.